The 2.0 update delivered in almost every way that and I think many of us could have ever dreamed of. New plants, new items, new characters, even a new DLC. And honestly, it's all still a bit overwhelming. I actually had to step away from the game for a little while because I had too many ideas, not enough items, and quite frankly, I just really needed a break. I think that a lot of us probably felt sort of similarly about this update and that strong sense of overwhelm that came with it. Let's talk a bit about that and what we can do to get our feet back underneath us, because I know that my head is still spinning, so maybe we can spin together? Yeah? Alright, let's go. I think it's safe to say that many of us probably lied a little bit to ourselves when we saw the teaser for the update and thought something like, oh my gosh, finally something to cure my burnout! And I just have to ask, did this update really do that? Was that your experience? Cause it sure wasn't mine. After over a year of nearly daily play, my well of ideas seemed to have dried up, and I was really hoping that this update would create a new spark to reignite my passion. And while I do believe that that did eventually happen for me, I still think that I needed to take a little bit of time away from the game. The mechanics of decorating and terraforming and villager hunting had all lost their glimmer, and as amazing as the 2.0 update was, the roots of Animal Crossing New Horizons didn't change, so it makes sense that many of us may still be struggling with burnout and game fatigue because it is still the same game. Even the Happy Home Paradise DLC is just a slightly repackaged version of the same mechanics that we've already become familiar with. If there's a small part of you that feels a little let down or disheartened because you haven't quite gotten your mojo back, remember to breathe, relax, let go of any pressure you might be feeling to create something new, and give yourself the time that you need. You're never going to feel reinvigorated and ready to come back to the game if you don't give yourself a chance to miss it. Aside from still wrestling with a little burnout, another thing that has me feeling overwhelmed is collecting all of the new items and DIYs that were released with the update. Now, I know that at the heart of Animal Crossing is this undertone of slow, casual play, taking time to explore and find things organically over a stretched out period of time. But that playstyle drives me absolutely bonkers. Give me the items I need and give them to me now. I feel like I've put in my time, I've collected, and I've collected some more, and would you look at that? Here's another little bit of collecting that I've done, and I'm still not even halfway to where I want to be. I can't even decorate properly because I'm still lacking so many items. Is this me being a bit whiny? Absolutely. I am perfectly aware that this game was never really intended for that instant gratification lifestyle, but it irks me so much sometimes. It honestly hurts my brain a bit when I try to transfer a design idea from my mind onto my island because it feels like I just keep stumbling into a wall over and over and over again. It's to the point where some days I can barely even pick up the game because ideas will just flood their way into me that I can't materialize because I don't have the right materials. This game was designed with a specific playstyle in mind, and if that playstyle doesn't quite match yours, you're in for a mighty difficult time because it'll end up feeling like everything is out of sync. I know it'll all come together and I'll get access to the items I need eventually, but man, it's taking a lot longer than I would have hoped. Hopefully you're having a better time at this whole collecting thing than I am because it is brutal. Another phenomenon that I've noticed sweeping through the Animal Crossing community is being inspired by what you see other players creating with the 2.0 update items, and then feeling like nothing you create is anywhere near comparable to what you're seeing. So many players have mentioned on their Instagram accounts how they've gotten to the point of being almost afraid to post anything new that they've done on their islands because they feel like they just can't compete with what other players are creating. It hurts to see so many players doubting themselves, believing that the beauty that they create isn't good enough to be proud of. I think that's a struggle that a lot more of us may be experiencing than are ready to admit. I speak primarily with a perspective as a US player because it feels like everything in this country has become a competition to the point where we feel like we aren't even capable of playing correctly. We don't play beautifully enough. That's where it seems a lot of us are at, and it's a really disheartening place to be. I don't think that most anyone is actively trying to make this island decorating life simulation game into a competition, but I think it's more a symptom of something bigger going on. Lord knows I don't have the knowledge to accurately speak to what this bigger thing might be, but if most things in our lives feel like a competition, it makes sense that we'd want to step out of any unnecessary rings that we don't really need to be in. All I'll say is that this game is not a competition. Social media may feel pressuring at times, but remember that the number of likes you receive from strangers on a screen, or the lack thereof, don't equate to how beautiful and worthy you are to share the wonderful and goofy and strange creations that you take the time to create. You, and all that you do, is worth showing off and being proud of. Well, that got a little intense. How about we simmer on down and talk about the struggle of having all the ideas and no clue what to do with them? It's a pain. Let's discuss. Aside from trying to collect all the new items and DIYs that I want, I'm still struggling with idea overload. One minute I'm thinking, hey, let's make a Christmas tree farm. Then the next minute I'm thinking, no wait, let's make a snowman village instead. And we only have so much space on our islands, so picking and choosing what to build ends up feeling really exhausting sometimes. This is something that I think has been amplified since the update, because if you aren't beating back burnout, then you're likely trying to manage the floodgates that are one new idea away from bursting. I've seen some players who have designated certain sections of their islands sort of as rotation spots. They'll build one idea and leave it for a few days before tearing it down and starting again. This allows them the chance to see their ideas through to fruition, but without having any long-term commitment, because we all know how frightening that can be. Or you could also just max out your credit card and buy up a whole bunch of other Switches, one for each new theme idea that you want to play around with. But that may not be the most advisable option. Please don't. Whatever you decide to do, keep in mind that you have time. You don't need to do it all at once because this isn't the sort of game with a definitive ending. Endings are actually quite arbitrary in this game. Personally, I just jot down my ideas as they come and play around with them until I find a combination of things that just sort of feels right. Everyone will discover their own unique way of picking and choosing how they design their islands, so if you haven't figured it out yet, just give it some more time. You'll get there eventually, I promise you. I'm actually really glad that I'm not dealing with this specific sense of overwhelm yet, but I think that many players are, so let's touch on it. The Happy Homes Paradise DLC. I haven't downloaded this yet, so I apologize for not having any DLC footage to share with you. Instead, let's go on a villager hunt? Yay! A good number of players seem torn between focusing on designing their islands, and I think it's called going to work, on their Happy Homes Paradise Islands. This likely ties into idea overload because in the DLC, as far as I'm aware, you can only design so many houses, so you have to be a little bit picky about which villagers and plots to use. Again, this is all going to come down to your personal preferences and playstyle. My 2 cents is to prioritize and focus on whichever of the two you seem to be enjoying more. I would also advise that you remember to give yourself little breaks so that the magic of each remains glittery and bright each time you play. If you've already purchased and downloaded the DLC, it's not going anywhere. I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but again, you don't have to rush through it, because the one thing that I can truly, from the bottom of my heart, say about the Animal Crossing franchise is that it's been specifically designed for slow and casual play. Unless you're a speedy McSpeedster, in which case... Run, Barry, run! Do you relate to any of these overwhelming things, or are you feeling like you've got your island and play experience completely under control? Let me know how you're doing in the comments, and thank you so much for joining me today. I have a few fun and wintry ideas that I'll be working on for the next few weeks to possibly a few months, because we all know how much of a total speedster I am with my video uploads. If you have any specific wintry requests, please let me know. As always, I'll see what I can do about addressing your ideas and suggestions, and yeah, until next time, bye!